All right, we're back for another week. Got a little American woman, the Guess Who, in the background here. Hey, who doesn't love the Guess Who, right? From back in the day, American Woman. Hey, I thought it was pretty appropriate on a election week. Hope everybody's had an awesome week. Election week is over. Thank goodness, man. That's all that was on TV this week, wasn't it? Hey, Marcus, hope you're doing good. As we get going here this week, I tell you, what a big... I bet you're wondering, aren't you? Where is David? Well, that's Amanda. Hello, Amanda. David is in Central America. Right now, he is in Colombia. They're about 14 hours from Colombia. And then they're going to head over to Panama and I think Costa Rica. And let's see, where else are they going? A few other places over the next week. And so, obviously, hey, you're stuck with me this week on the happy hour. And know they're having a good time. And, golly, I wonder if he's kind of a big deal on the boat, too. Because, we're kind of a big deal. Anyway, want to remind everybody, the podcast is going really good. So, wherever you can get a good podcast, whether it be Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, really anywhere you get good pod, download the show if you miss it. You don't want to watch our beautiful faces every week. Get it there. So hope you really, you can do that if you'd like. We'd love for you to download it there. Anyway, going to talk today a little bit about mortgage rates. Mortgage rates are rising again. Has nothing to do with the election. Has everything to do with what the Fed promised us. So we got to talk about that. The election results in a divided government. What's that going to do for us? How is that going to affect you and your wallet? We're going to talk about that. The Southwest Companion Pass has been an incredible thing for our family and has allowed us to travel places, that we couldn't have afforded because you had to buy 3 tickets, and we turned that in for the last 10 years into only 2 tickets. Well, I'm going to show you how to do it, and I think you'll really like it. Let's see. What else are we going to talk about today? Oh, 5 tips. I'm going to give you 5 tips when you're building a new construction home. I'll have that for you, and a good bit more as we go along here. Let's see here. I'm going to get this. All right. All right, well, let's get going. Interest rates over the last week inched up again, up about 1/10 of a point over last week. David told you it was going to happen, and it did, as they inched closer to 5%. The 30-year conventional rate up to about 4.83% on average nationwide. That's, like I say, up 1/10 of a point, 4.58 on the 30-year FHA fixed. The 15-year conventional fixed, 4.13%. The 30-year jumbo jumped to 4.83. And like I said, so these are pushing towards that 5% mark. Remember, 6 months ago, we were still on that FHA closer to 4%. Now we're closer to 5%, obviously. How does that affect you? It really makes a huge difference in buying power for somebody. So somebody that was probably going to buy a $200,000 home now can probably afford about $180,000, $185,000 home. So that gives you a little bit of idea there. Talking about the election results. Wow, what a week that was, huh? I tell you what, it was a good day in Alabama. All the good guys won, at least in my opinion, they won. Will Ainsworth, young up-and-comer here in Alabama, and the new lieutenant governor. Will is going to make a good lieutenant governor. Obviously, Kay Ivey, and glad she got reelected. I think it's going to be good for real estate and everything else in business here in Alabama. But on the national scale, of course you know already that the Democrats have taken over the House of Representatives. What does that mean? Oh no, gridlock, right? Well, not so fast. We're going to talk about in just a second that it actually may be a good thing if we're looking solely at the economy and economics and what history tells us about that. Here's some interesting stats from the election. $5.2 billion. $5.2 billion was spent on this election in all the different races. I mean, that's a staggering amount of money. And quite frankly, most of it was spent on the Democrat side of the puzzle here. 113 million people voted. Wow, what a lot of people. Of all voters, 38% were defined as Democrats, 32% Republicans, and 30% were independents. You know, hey, they say we're divided, but that just tells me we're divided in thirds, right? And quite frankly, that tells me if these folks running for office are really going to go after that 30% that are the independents. So 33 seats in Congress were flipped. And what I mean by that is from Democrat. In this election, most of those went from Republican to Democrat in a lot of gerrymandered, redistricted seats. So that was interesting there. 110 females were elected, a record number of females. In fact, I think close to 45 of those were non-white, in other words, minorities. So what a good day there. We're going to get a large cross-section, regardless of party, into the House of Representatives there, and a number of females joined the Senate as well. The U.S. Senate obviously stayed with the Republicans and actually increased in the number of folks serving on the Republican side, which will be big if you're looking to see the courts, I was going to say packed, but filled with a lot of conservative jurisprudence and lawyers, so that'll be interesting there. You know, the other thing I thought, going back to Alabama, one of the interesting stats I saw was that over each of the major races, if you will, the congressional races, the Secretary of State, going down the line, were either uncontested or the winner won by over 60% of the vote. That's just pretty crazy to think that we didn't even really have a contested race here in Alabama, although we obviously we thought we did. So there is that. But some interesting stats, you know, on this divided government, because I've given a lot of thought to this, you know, because I think initially we get bent out of shape. Oh my gosh, we're going to have a divided government. Nothing's going to get done, and well, we're just screwed, right? You know, that nothing can get done. Well, history, you got to go to the facts, and the facts, as I like to say. And if you look at the facts, divided government has easily meant a more prosperous economy. And when you look at the numbers, they don't lie. From 1970 until 2010, the federal government has been controlled by one party only 30% of the time. What does that mean? 70% of the time, we were in a divided government situation. And in that time, from 1970 to 2010, when we had a divided government, the gross domestic product grew in a divided government by 3.3% versus 3% under single party control. Now look at this. Unemployment. The unemployment rate, we want a lower number here, right? Was on at a median number was 5.7%, unemployment 5.7% with a divided government, and 6.1% were a single party controlled. In other words, hey, the unemployment rate went down. We're going to get to why in a minute. I think it's kind of interesting. The S&P 500, you hear it all the time. The S&P 500, the Dow Jones, those type things. The S&P 500 index has increased at a median rate of 13.5% with a divided government. And catch this, only 9% under one-party rule. So many people have their 401k and their retirement accounts following an index fund. I talk about it all the time. Making sure you have an index fund part of your retirement portfolio. I just think it's one of the wisest things. Hey, I'm not a stockbroker or anything like that. And, you know, hey, I don't even play one on TV. But I do believe that you need to have one in your portfolio. That said, divided government means it should flourish in a divided government. You know, I mentioned a little bit earlier about gridlock. and I was looking for answers. So, I was really looking around the web last night, and the best explanation I got was from an Atlanta Journal-Constitution article that was talking about it. And they were talking about a paralyzed government, meaning they don't get anything done, has been good because the changes politicians contrive to fix things ultimately end up being harmful, right? The government, a lot of us don't think that the government can get much done correctly, right? They do certain things right. They pave roads, they put a man in space. They do a lot of things. Well, quite frankly, the private industry is the one putting men in space now. But the solutions they come up with end up harming people and or harming a subsection, so it's never a net gain of the benefit. And so what ends up happening is they don't get anything done, and the economy is left to its own devices. And like a lot of things in capitalism, the chips fall where they may, and things work themselves out. Thus, the economy does better. The other thing is, I don't want to underscore the fact that the politicians can't when they are divided. They tend to actually, when they do pass something, they pass more sensible, across the board, because they're having to reach across that table and get agreement on stuff, right? So the legislation tends to be better in the long run for everybody. Everybody doesn't get what they want, and at the end of the day, you end up with better policy. From 1993 to 2010, get this though, here's the thing. For the last, hey Mickey, for the last, I guess, what would this be, 2 years since we've had the president, the Republicans have had the presidency, the House, and the Senate. What have we said? Get something done. You need to get something done, right? Well, they haven't gotten hardly anything except the tax reform bill done. Nothing. They argued, they fought, they did a lot of things, but they didn't pass a lot of legislation. But if you look between 1993 and 2010, in a divided government, Congress passed 241 bills compared to 210 bills. So 31 more bills were passed in a divided government than they had in a one-party rule government. And you go, hey, how is that even possible? I mean, I wonder that too, right? If you have the presidency, you have the House, you have the Senate, how in the world can you not pass bills? You should be passing bills. I don't care if it's all Democrat or all Republican. You should be passing bills left and right. So don't understand it. The best example you can think of, I think, if you're over 30 years old, if you remember Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich, they got stuff done because they both were looking out to actually pass legislation. I mean, that's the ultimate question we can all ask. What are the politicians doing today? Are they really trying to push this economy along and the political nature? Darren James, what's happening, big dog, down in Louisiana? How are you? So we really are looking at that to see what will happen. And I think, Donald Trump's already saying he's going to reach across that aisle. And I, for one, want to give him a chance. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not a big liberal. Obviously, I'm quite the opposite. But what I will say, economically, is that we really need to give it a chance because the stats don't lie. I mean, the fact that the S&P 500 in a divided government grows at 13% versus 9% is a big deal. Darren says, where is your co-host, Darren James? He is on a cruise, man. He is cruising Central America for 10 days. See, it must be nice to be a lender. Obviously, realtors, we have to work, Darren James. It's something else, huh? The lenders just, hey, they got the money. They just throwing it out the window to everybody, right? Obviously, Darren, I tell you, what have you thought about these? These interest rates are rising, man. It's amazing. Up to almost 5% on the conventional. Hopefully, they'll stop. I think they will right around 5%. These interest rates can't rise too fast, is what we're worried about. So, Darren Cheney says, taking some much-needed time off, late to bed, early to rise, work like crazy, and advertise. Wow, that's something else, Darren James. You're a modern-day rapper or singer or writer. Darren James said he thinks that the interest rates are going to stop around 5. By the way, this Darren James, big dog down in Louisiana, he is a big-time agent down there, sells hundreds and hundreds of houses. 5%. I don't. It's so amazing, Darren, how we all thought it was going to happen. I mean, for 10 years we were telling people, oh, they're going to rise, they're going to rise. They never did, right? Because the Fed was artificially holding these rates low. And look, the chickens came around to roost finally, and it's going to be painful on the interest rate side. One of the interesting things that I found over the last 6 months, I'm 42, and I don't remember in my generation where we saw interest rates rise as well as home prices also on a steep rise. And what's ended up happening is all that's happening a little too quickly, and a lot of folks are getting pushed out of the market. They're wanting to move up and can't afford to. And so that's interesting. And it's interesting really because we haven't seen it because since, I've been in real estate, we've always seen interest rates go one way, prices go the other. So, it's one of those things over the next 6 months. It's going to be interesting to see which of those two. I have a feeling prices are going to be the one to pull back. I don't see interest rates pulling back. So it's going to be interesting nonetheless. All right, moving on to the next block here. 5 tips. Came up with 5. Count them 5. Hey, Rain, how are you? Miss Fitness, how are you? 5 tips for buying a new construction home. Here we go. Number 1. All right, hold on. We're going to go here check real quick on this. Darren James's comment here. He says California has hit a ceiling in the affordability index and predictions. Prices will be the one to stop rising. I think you're right. They have to be. And quite frankly, one thing to remember in case anybody is wondering about these interest rates, interest rates are historically still very low. It is. I can't tell you how often we're talking to people, especially the under 30 crowd. Remember, they haven't seen since they've been experiencing life as almost adults. They haven't experienced life of anything but around 4 or less. And so we hear them say, "Oh man, if they ever get to 5, that's too much." No, I think that 5. Is still pretty low. I mean, I've had interest rates 5, 6, 7%, so not too bad. Still better than in the 11% range like my parents. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. The 11%, I can't even imagine. And to even hear these people say the 13, 14, whatever the late 70s were. My first home was 6.9%. Yeah, it's 7% is a... Well, that's about historically average. Hello to Tamara. Tamara, what do you call those things? I want to say she just posted an what are they called? Dadgummit. Anyway, an aardvark, or for those folks on the podcast, it's a emoji somebody posted, and I forget, they're the little prickly fellows. Anyway, I'm getting myself way off track here. But going back to 5 tips for buying a new construction home. Number 1, hire a home inspector. One of the best things you can do is hire that home inspector. Let me tell you this. There are really 3 important areas. By the way, that's a hedgehog. There are 3 inspections during the process. A foundation inspection, that's, hey, they get the foundation going. And you want to make sure before any work's done out there, that foundation is properly poured, especially if you're building a basement, making sure those walls are plumb and done exactly like they were supposed to be. Absolutely right, Darren. For your protection, get an inspection. Then there's the pre-drywall. This is the right in the middle of the whole process. A pre-drywall inspection. You say, why are you talking about drywall? Because this is before they cover everything up and you'll never see it again in your life. Like it is, are the can lights. See, you think, oh no, I'll look at the can lights where they're positioned. I'm going to look at those when they get done and I see the beautiful light just going down the hallway. Well, no, the best thing you can do is check them there. And really, hey, take pictures during this process as you're getting these inspections. And then, obviously the final walkthrough inspection with your inspector. I can't tell you how many home inspectors, traditional home inspectors, that we talk to that say that during the new home inspection, a lot of times they're just doing the finals, but they find more stuff in new construction where corners were cut than they do on a resale home inspection. So that's real important there. 3 S's of inspection: structure, systems, and safety. Right. All 3 of those things, very important. And quite frankly, the best thing you can do is ask your realtor, hey, who has done well for your clients in the past as a home inspector? And quite frankly, if your realtor hands you a list and gives you a long list of about 32 names, you're with the wrong realtor. A realtor knows who the good ones are and should have at least 2 they can give you who's available, because you really want to make sure you have a good one. And remember, too, one of the big things that the home builders love to tell everybody is that we've been inspected by the city. Well, great, good for you. The inspectors that are working for the city are looking at very specific things. They're not necessarily looking out for everything that you need and need to see. So very important. Get that when you're getting new construction. Get a home inspection. There's Boston's own Karen King. How are you? Maintain good communications with your builder. Very important here. Maintaining that. Find out very early in the process, hey, who am I supposed to be talking to about my new house? Am I supposed to be talking to the superintendent? I guarantee it's not the sales agent in the sales office. Very few times is that the person, and quite frankly, they really don't know what they're talking about the day-to-day construction of your house. They know a lot about the whole process of what will happen, but the day-to-day minute details, miss you at the NAR conference. Yes, I know, and plus it was up in Boston, right? Let's see here. Set a plan for communication updates. Set that tone with that builder or that superintendent or whoever you're going to be talking to. Make sure you say, hey, would you prefer that I talk to you via email or text message or whatever? And schedule a time every week. Ask him when he's going to be updating you or her, right? We've seen a few superintendents around town now. They're female. So ask them how they want to be communicated with, and set a time and ask them to update you on a regular basis, because a lot of times, a lot of the better builders do that, but you want to set that tone from the very beginning. So next, number 3, look for builder incentives. This is a big one, and your agent should be able to help you here. These incentives could be anywhere from where a lot of times they'll ask you to work with a particular lender. One thing I can tell you as a secret, is a guy who actually built houses at one time and worked with local realtors. The builder's still willing to chip in his part to help lower your interest rates. Oftentimes, unless you use their preferred, the other half of the deal, if you will. If they were going to buy it down by 1 point, they'll now only buy it down by half a point because you didn't use their lender. But they've priced it into the house. And so if you don't ask those questions, you won't get it. So a lot of times they'll help you on that. Because one thing that I want to start from the jump here and talk about is that builders are very unlikely to lower the price. And quite frankly, buying a new home, you don't want them to, because as they keep building in that neighborhood, you don't want them lowering the price from where you bought it, undercutting you and putting nicer things in that house. They want to make sure that their values stay high. So that's real important that you understand that. The other thing, look for goodies that they may throw in. Fences are real popular, right? An upgraded granite. Maybe there's carpet in the master bedroom, but hey, part of the deal is they'll put hardwoods in that master. They'll put it in the other rooms. Maybe that'll happen, but hey, you don't get what you don't ask for, right? So don't forget to ask that. This is a big one. Schedule more time into the process. You know, the builders are going to give you a timeline, and one of the biggest struggles we struggle with today is timing selling of our own house, right? We want to make sure it's an easy transition to the new home. Well, it's hard when you got to sell your own house, and you try to time it right. Most builders have about a 2-week window, because hey, you never know what's going to happen weather-wise. They oftentimes they don't have crews at certain times of the year, or they get so busy that they have to shift crews to another job and back and forth. So make sure that buy yourself another 4 weeks. Buy yourself, and this is relative to your current home too, where you're staying. Do not sign a lease that ends on a certain day when you're supposed to close, because I guarantee you will probably miss that date, okay? Because imagine when they're pouring the foundation, they've given you a date of May 30th. Well, that's based with a 2-week gap from a certain start date. Well, what happens when it rains for 2 weeks and they can't start? Now you've eliminated your whole grace period there with 2 weeks, and you want to make sure that when that rain has delayed everything, that you got time to get out. So what would I do? I would extend my lease another month. Give yourself 4 weeks, or I wouldn't sell my house till I had about 4 weeks to go, and maybe they'll let you stay a month, because most of this post-closing occupancy doesn't happen that easily. So, because people want their house when they're buying your house, they want you to get out, right? So, all right. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, the biggest problem that is rain early in the process. Visit the site often. This is something that oftentimes the builders tell you, well, we don't need you stepping out here all the time. It's your house that you're building. By golly, go out there and visit as often as you want. Obviously, play by their rules. They're going to give you rules at the very beginning saying you need to check in here. If that's the case, do it. But if not, schedule time to go out there about once a week. Don't bother the workers out there. Don't give them advice and tell them what to do. Go to whoever that point of contact we talked about earlier is and talk to them. One of the biggest things is you're going to notice no one's paying closer attention to that house than you are. You remember the upgrades that you put in there and those type of things. If you see an opening, like a window opening that's in the wrong place, that's a popular one. We see that all the time. Or we see doors that are swapped, right? Hopefully the builder was going to catch that early enough, but the earlier you catch it for him, the better it is, because it's hard to fix, after everything gets going too far along. Take pictures. I talked about it a little bit earlier. Make sure you're taking pictures. Not only is it good for sending an email, sending a text to that superintendent saying you put the window in the wrong spot, but it's also good for you to remember what was behind a wall 2 years from now. When you go, you know what is behind that wall right there? You'll know exactly what's there. So there is that. So those are 5 tips for buying new construction homes. So moving on to a different topic, the Southwest Companion Pass. Oh yes, the Southwest Companion Pass. It has been just an incredible thing for our family. And what it is, for Southwest Airlines, let's start with the premise, though, that you do need a Southwest Rapids Rewards account. In other words, that's our frequent flights. It's the equivalent of Delta Sky Miles or a United Mileage Plus account. You just need a simple, it's free, sign up for it. And what you do, in order to get the Companion Pass, and I'm going to read from their website so you can get what it really is. It allows you to book a friend or family member's airplane ticket on the same flight as you without airline charges. You do have to pay taxes, which run about $6 per each way. And after you have the Companion Pass, you'll be able to designate that companion. The good news is you'll be able to change that companion 3 times in a year. And the Companion Pass is good for all of the current year in which you earn the Companion Pass and all of next year. So good example of that is Amanda and I are headed to New York in December. And, hey, she has the Companion Pass. So what did we do? We booked a ticket in her name and used points, obviously. I'm a big points guy. Used points to book it. Got a great deal. And then you say, well, how much did you pay, Collier? I paid $12 round trip. How did I pay $12 round trip? Because she has me as her companion. And when we booked the ticket, we just added the companion on there. And my ticket cost $12. She can fly anywhere in the country, whether using miles or money, hard green, credit card, whatever. And I fly free. Whoever her companion is flies free. So it allows you basically to have BOGO, buy one, get one, for almost 2 years. And you say, hey, how do I do that? What does it take to get it? It takes 110,000 Southwest points in order to earn the companion pass. I get it. Flying would take forever. If you had to get it via flying every day, you'd have to fly a ton of flights. A lot of people do. But for most of us, it would take a while. There's a shortcut, and that is utilizing the credit card strategy. Because remember, you only have to do this every 2 years, so it's not going to hurt you. And quite frankly, it's not going to hurt your credit. We talk about personal finance here a good bit. And I can tell you, quite frankly, it may actually make your score go up, not down. So what do you have to do? You have to get a credit card that is a personal credit card through Chase that is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. And then you have to get a business card. You say, I don't have a business. That's fine. You work somewhere or you have a small Etsy business. You have something you can call a business. They don't care. You get that. You get the business card. One thing about the business cards, they offer a 60,000 mile sign up, 60 or 50. Typically run 60 about a third of the year, and then about 50,000 sign up bonus the rest of the year. And that's after spending $3,000 over 3 months. So over 3 months, if you can put $1,000 a month on that card, you'll earn 50 to 60,000 points plus the 3 that your minimum spend. And so you had 53 or 63. Now, remember, we got to get to 110. So how are we going to do that? We're then going to get the personal card. And we're going to get one of the personal cards. And they typically have earning rates of 40,000 points to 50,000 points. So you get those. You're typically, if they're at 40,000, you already had the 60, you're only going to be, what is that, about 160. You only need about 4,000 points more. Get another $4,000 spend anytime in the next, 8 months or whenever you start. By the end of that year, and you will get to 110,000 points. Very easy, folks. And then you say, well, Collier, what do you do? I'm notorious for my spreadsheet that I have that is on with all the different credit cards we have. And one thing I'll tell you, my credit score has stayed well above 800 through all this up and down of getting this card, that card, all the cards. And really what helps you is and one of the biggest parts of your credit score is the amount of credit that you have and then the amount of credit that you use. So every time you get a new card, right, let's say you get another $10,000 and you don't really use it, right, because you're paying that off. Your credit score is actually going to go up if you're using less of that credit. So real important there. So if you can get to 110,000 points on Southwest, you will get it. Now, a lot of folks say, I already have the Southwest card. Well, great. Cut it up and get it in your spouse's name. Now, that's very crucial if you got a spouse. You only want to operate this on one person, right? In other words, how do I put this? The husband needs to either get it in his name for the personal card and the business card, or the wife can do it, but not both. Why? Because you're probably going to want to name the spouse as the other card holder. And as the companion in the situation. Very important because, hey, you don't both want to have the companion pass at the same time or it might defeat the purpose. Because 2 years from now, you're gonna want to get the companion pass. And you don't, and one of the biggest reasons you can't get it is they have a rule that says you can't have had it any time in the last 2 years. That is the sign-up bonuses, that is, which is obviously necessary running this to get the companion pass. So very important and great way. If you have any questions, email me, collier@megagents.com. I'll be glad to tell you a little bit more about the companion pass, but literally save thousands of dollars. And just think about it. Hawaii, they're headed to Hawaii this year, more Caribbean islands than ever before. Those Hawaii tickets are going to be, so valuable. Imagine being able to pay, instead of $600 round trip for one person, you're going to be paying $600 for 2 people. What a savings that is. And quite frankly, it'll change your world relative to travel. So really good there. The other way, obviously, you can earn those points. and we're going to talk about this one week, is the shopping portals that these airlines have. Really a great way to click through those. They pay a referral fee to these vendors. The same people you're shopping for, Ann Taylor, everybody but Amazon, really. They pay points just for clicking through their shopping portals these airlines have, and that's another way to get a lot of points. The other things you can do is every time you get a car rental, sign up that way. Sign up and make sure your Southwest, your American Airlines, whatever airline program you're using, make sure you have that number in there, because those will count. But relative to this, it'll count for the Southwest points. You might ask too here, which of the personal cards? There are 3 cards that Southwest has. Which of those should I get? And look, get the cheapest one with the biggest bonus. Don't worry about the price. There is an annual fee, but I think it's $65 or something like that. But hey, who cares, right? $99 on the business card. So for $150, you got 2 years of free travel for one person. So that's really good. And quite frankly, you can status match this companion pass over to some other airlines. So really interesting there. So all right, moving on. Hey, let's talk about stocks and how the election yesterday. The S&P and the Dow Jones surged big time the day after. They went up over 500 points, and it was the best rally since 1982, Reagan's first midterm. And so the Dow Jones was up 545 points, and the S&P up 58. Both of them up over 2% the day after the election. Hey, let me tell you, if you were going to have an entry point into the market, I really do think right now is a great time to get back in the market. We've seen a little rally here. Don't get scared away, because remember, we eliminated all the gains. This is November of 2018, and we have eliminated most of the gains that we had going into the end of October with that fall we had in the stock market closer to the end of the month there. So great entry into the market if you're looking. Hey, this was an interesting thing we saw happen yesterday. Marijuana stocks. We talked about Tilray a few weeks ago. By the way, another state, Michigan, passed marijuana laws, so allowing the recreational use of marijuana up in Michigan. So a lot of these are becoming legitimate businesses, and this marijuana stock company Tilray jumped 30% after Attorney General Jeff Sessions resigned. Very interesting that one thing like that, because he was coming after him from the federal government, federal level, and so up 30% yesterday. Stock picks this week. Hey, take my advice, because I haven't bought this one yet, and when I do buy them, obviously sometimes they go the other way. So, or what I'll do is I'll buy my good pick, right, and then a few weeks later I'll get spooked. I'll sell it, and then guess what? Whoop! It flies high. So buy Etsy, ETSY. Etsy, buy it on the pullback. If it has a pullback, great earnings, and forward guidance was phenomenal. They're making a ton of money. Just buy it on the pullback. Went up pretty big yesterday. I think up about 10% or more yesterday. But when the market pulls back, that's a good one if you're looking for something to kind of make a little bit of money over the next year. As always, a good S&P 500 index fund. It's good. I think the S&P's had a bad year when we've had divided government. Another big tip there. All right, moving on to I almost said the stock picks. It's a football picks. Football picks. The good news is, hey, David's not here to give you the bad picks. I'm here to give you the good picks. All right, we got 5 this week. 5 big football picks. Here we go. Ohio State -3.5 at Michigan State. Hey, Michigan State is a weird team. They're not that good, and Ohio State's a good team that plays down to their opponents a little bit. But hey, they have too much talent. I'll lay 3.5. I'll lay 4. They're going to win double digits over Michigan State. All right, here we go. Oklahoma State plus 20 at Oklahoma. Wow. This Oklahoma team is a tale of two cities. They talk about a team that is playing down to their opponents. Hey, Oklahoma has done it all year long. Oklahoma State, I'll take I tell you what, there's not many coaches with the swag of Oklahoma State's coach, so I'll take Oklahoma State plus 20. This is a rivalry. Hey, anything can happen in these games. So Oklahoma State plus the 20. LSU minus 14 at Arkansas. They don't score much. Well, they didn't score at all against Alabama, but Alabama is maybe the best team I've seen ever. But anyway, LSU minus 14 at Arkansas. Arkansas sucks. They're awful. Terrible. Awful. They're worse than Auburn. Take LSU minus 14. Somehow they'll score 17 points. I don't know. 17, 21 points. Who knows? But LSU can score on Arkansas for sure. All right. To the games here in Alabama. Auburn plus 14 at Georgia. Look, it would be cool to think, as an Auburn grad, that Auburn could cover 14 points. They got a defense that can do it. But they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it, folks. Georgia will roll it home by 17, I think. So I'll take Georgia plus or minus the 14 points. Lay the 14. Give Auburn a head start of 14 points. Gus Malzahn needs it because he'll ruin it. All right, here we go. Last but not least, Alabama at home against Mississippi State. 24-point favorites. Who should I take? Why would I go against Tua? It'll be Tua time in Tuscaloosa. So, yes, Tua gets it done. 24 points. I mean, why would I not take Alabama? There's just no reason not to take them. They are that good and have earned the right to get 24. They may score 24 points in the first quarter and cover then. So anyway, so there's that. Anyway, I have enjoyed being with you today. The Real Estate Happy Hour every Thursday at 4 o'clock. We're a little late today, but we'll be back 4 o'clock next Thursday here on Facebook Live. And don't forget to listen to the replay on the podcast. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere great pod is. Also, just check us out on our Facebook page, the Real Estate Happy Hour Show page, and on Instagram, and all the great social media places. So anyway, hope everybody has an awesome week and rest of your week, and you have a great weekend. And we'll see you next Thursday. Have a great night. Bye-bye.